Hi, everybody. So today for our lesson, we're going to be talking about something called a transversal. Up until now, we've been looking at special angle relationships. And so we've learned about linear pairs, vertical angles, complementary angles, supplementary angles. And so today we're going to take it a step further and learn what happens when we have a transversal that cuts through two parallel lines. So the first thing you need to know is what a transversal is. You are going to need your notebook today. You're going to need some patty paper for our investigations, and you'll need a pencil and a straight edge. So if you need to pause the video to go grab those things, do that. And the first thing, once you come back with your notebook, is write down transversal. It's a line that intersects two or more lines in the plane. So here I've got two lines right here, and my transversal is the highlighted green one. It's intersecting these two lines that I have drawn here. Now these numbers are going to make sense in a few minutes, and don't worry about corresponding angles, alternate interior, all that stuff. We'll get to that in just a few minutes. The first thing that we want to do is our first investigation. And so the first thing I want you to do is in your notebook, I want you to use the lines of your notebook to draw two parallel lines. So you're going to draw two parallel lines just like this. You're going to use the lines in your notebook to make sure that they're parallel. And that's super, super important that you do that. Okay. The next thing that we're going to do is we're going to label those lines K and L. And those are lowercase letters. So I'm going to label this one K and the lower one L. I'm going to put arrows on the ends of my lines. Remember, this is in your notebook, on the lines in your notebook. Now you're going to draw a transversal, and it's really important that you use a straight edge for this. You're going to draw this transversal that goes through lines K and L, those parallel lines, and you're going to label this K. Sorry, M. We already had K. You're going to label the transversal M. Now you're going to copy the angles or label them just the way I'm labeling them. So we're going to go clockwise, 1, 2, 3, 4. And then starting on the upper left-hand side of the lower line, again, clockwise, 5, 6, 7, 8. Now, again, this is very important that your figure looks just like mine. Your angles need to be numbered 1, 2, 3, 4, going around, and then starting again 5, 6, 7, 8. Because when we start to name these angles in a few minutes, it will be super confusing if you have your numbers in a different place. Okay, now you're going to take your patty paper. Remember, I told you at the beginning that you would need some patty paper. So now you're going to take a piece of your patty paper. Remember, it looks like this. Take that patty paper, and you are going to copy this onto your patty paper. So you're going to take this and lay it on top of what you did on your notebook, okay? And you're going to copy the intersection of 1 through 4 onto your patty paper, not the whole entire thing. So you're going to copy the intersection of 1 through 4 on your patty paper right now. If you need to pause the video to do that. So you're only copying this part right here, this line, the transversal. You can extend it down, but you're only copying that part of the intersection. Once you have that copied, now you're going to take that patty paper and you're going to slide it down the transversal. You're going to slide it down to the intersection that contains 5, 6, 7, and 8. So you're going to go down to this intersection. And when you do that, what do you notice about the angles? Which angles are congruent? So that's what I want you to look at. When you do that, which angles are congruent? So pause the video, take a minute to write down which angles are congruent. And when you have those written down, unpause the video so that we can go over those together. So what you should have noticed was that angle 1 is congruent to angle 5. Angle 2 is congruent to angle 6. Angle 3 is congruent to angle 7. Angle 4 is congruent to angle 8. That's what you should have noticed when you slid that down. Now let's go on to the next part. So what we had before was, again, we had angles 1, 2, 3, 4. Then we had angles 5, 6, 7, and 8. My transversal was M. My lines were L and K. So I'm just going to draw this again. And one thing that I can do on here is mark what's congruent. So I know that angle 1 was congruent to angle 5. And then angle 2, one mark there, was congruent to angle 6. Oops. Angle 3 was congruent to angle 7. And then angle 4 was congruent to angle 8. So what I want to think about when I'm talking about something that's corresponding, that means things that match up. So that's like when you took your patty paper and you slid it down. So angle 1 corresponded with angle 5. And angle 2 corresponds with angle 6. Angle 3 corresponds with angle 7. And angle 4 corresponds with angle 8. That's the first part. And so those are all corresponding angles, and we sometimes write those as CA when we're doing a proof. Okay, now when we're talking about alternate interior angles, alternate means opposite sides of the transversal. So remember, we're talking about this transversal that we have here. Let me highlight that. So alternate means that we're talking about opposite sides of the transversal and their interior. That means on the inside, interior. Okay, so when we think about alternate interior, we've got angle 4, and we also have angle 6. Its alternate interior angle is angle 6. Those are congruent to each other. And then if we look at angle 3, it is congruent with angle 5. Now think about that. If we know that angle 2 corresponds with angle 6, they're the same measure, right? And then we also know that 2 and 4 are the same measure because they are vertical angles. So 4 and 6 must be the same measure too. That's just another way that you could prove that. And so looking at different, I can slide this, there we go, slide that out of the way. Looking at different relationships with angles. Now let's go to alternate exterior. Alternate still meaning that we are on the opposite sides of the transversal, but exterior meaning we're going to be on the outside of those two parallel lines. So opposite sides of the transversal, but outside. So we're going to start with angle 1. It's alternate exterior, so that means other side of the transversal is angle 7. Angle 2, its alternate exterior is angle 8. Now let's think about why that works. So thinking about angle 1 is congruent to angle 3 because they're vertical angles. And then angle 3 and angle 7 correspond. We just did that with the patty paper. So that means angle 1 and angle 7 must be congruent. We can use the same argument for angle 2 to angle 8. 2 to 4 is vertical, meaning they have the same measure. And then 4 to 8 are corresponding. So angle 2 and angle 8 must be congruent with each other. Make sure that you have all of this down over here. The other thing is with alternate exterior angles, we sometimes just write that as A, E, A. And then with alternate interior angles, we sometimes write that as AIA when we are working on proofs. So here are our conjectures for corresponding angles, and you'll need to pause the video to make sure you get this down. If two parallel lines are cut by a transversal, and I'm going to draw this again. So I have my two parallel lines of, I think it was L and K, and then M is my transversal. Remember that these were parallel lines. I'm going to mark those. If two parallel lines are cut by a transversal, then corresponding angles are congruent. For alternate interior angles, AIA conjecture, if two parallel lines are cut by a transversal, then alternate interior angles are also congruent. And then alternate exterior angles conjecture. If two parallel lines are cut by a transversal, then alternate interior angles are congruent. If you need to pause the video to get those conjectures down, please do that. Those are very important. Now, parallel lines conjecture. This states if two, and remember, conjecture is like a rule, right? So it's like something that we're looking at other information and we're saying, okay, now we can write a rule about this so we can use it over and over again. Okay, if two parallel lines are cut by a transversal, so I've got two parallel lines. Now notice my numbers are numbered different here. Okay, we just needed them all the same for that one example. Okay, if two parallel lines are cut by a transversal, then the corresponding angles are congruent, and you can put in the congruent symbol. Alternate interior angles are congruent, and alternate exterior angles are congruent. This is just taking those last three conjectures and it's wrapping them all up in one package for parallel lines conjecture. Pause the video if you need to get this down. And we're going to add here, just for some practice, I want you to write in what are the corresponding angles, what are the alternate interior angles, and what are the alternate exterior angles. Pause the video, write those in, and then unpause to check your answers. So for corresponding angles, angle 2 corresponds with angle 6. Angle 1 corresponds with angle 5. Angle 3 corresponds with angle 7. And angle 4 corresponds with angle 8. For alternate interior angles, remember that's inside, that's an opposite sides of the alternate sides of the transversal. Okay, so that means angle 3, its alternate interior angle is angle 5. Those are congruent. Angle 4's alternate interior angle is angle 6. Those are congruent. And then the last one, alternate exterior angle. So we're going outside of the parallel lines, but still alternating sides of the transversal. And so angle 2's alternate exterior angle partner is angle 8, opposite sides of the transversal. And angle 1's alternate exterior angle partner is angle 7. Now, I want you to do another investigation, and this is asking if the converse is true. You're going to need a piece of patty paper for this also. You're going to draw two intersecting lines in your notebook. So just like this or like this down here, doesn't matter. You're going to copy the lines onto your patty paper. Now decide which one of these is going to be the transversal. So maybe I'm going to label this one right here my transversal. Okay. And so you're going to draw this in your notebook, Then you are going to copy this onto the patty paper. You are going to slide the patty paper on that transversal line, either up or down. So decide which one is the transversal, maybe highlight it so that it stands out to you. You're going to slide your patty paper up, and then you're going to trace this line again, this one right here. And then you're going to check, are those two lines parallel? So now you should end up, when you trace that again, you should end up with another line here. And are those two lines parallel? Well, they should be. And this is called the converse of the parallel lines conjecture. So we switched those two statements. So if two lines are cut by a transversal to form pairs of congruent corresponding angles, congruent alternate interior angles, or congruent alternate exterior angles, then the lines are parallel. Pause the video if you need to get that definition down. Sorry. And then I think we have one more thing to do. So for this last piece, I want you to draw this sketch in your notebook, and I want you to quiz yourself and see how do you do with naming corresponding angles, alternate interior angles, and alternate exterior angles. Draw the sketch, because if you go back to look at your notes and you don't have the sketch, putting down numbers isn't going to help you at all. So draw the sketch, label the angle measures or the angles by the numbers just like you see them, and pause the video so you can write down what the corresponding angles are, the alternate interior angles and alternate exterior. When you're done, unpause the video to check your work. The corresponding angles are 1 and 5, 2 and 6, 3 and 7, and 4 and 8. Could have also written them as congruent to each other. The alternate interior angles are 3 and 6, and then 4 and 5. And the alternate exterior angles are 1 and 8, and 2 and 7. Remember, if you have questions, come to the asynchronous class time to get help or to check in.